We've all heard this question before, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with disbelief. What were you thinking? Usually it comes after a mistake or a moment that didn't go as planned. But what if that same question, asked in a different tone, was actually an invitation? What if God Himself is asking, what were you thinking? Not to criticize, but to help you notice what's been shaping your peace, guiding your choices, and steering your day. Hey, I'm Melissa, and this is my question for you. Each week, we pause long enough to ask just one question, the kind that helps you slow down, think deeply, and realign with God. So, what were you thinking? I bet we've all been there before, where you find yourself replaying a conversation over and over in your mind until it drains the life right out of you. Or you imagine the worst case scenario so many times that you lose your peace before anything ever happens. Or maybe you scroll through someone else's highlight reel online and suddenly feel like your own life is coming up short. Our thoughts don't just live in our heads. They direct our emotions, our actions, and how close we feel to God. And sometimes we forget that we actually have a choice in what we dwell on. That's why Romans chapter 12, verse 2 reminds us of this. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Transformation begins in the mind, not when life gets easier, but when our thoughts begin to shift. Your situation might not change overnight, but your mindset can start changing today. That's where freedom begins. In the story of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15, it shows us what that looks like. A young man demands his inheritance. He leaves home and wastes everything he has by living a reckless life. Eventually, he's broke, he's hungry, and feeding pigs just to survive. From the outside, it looks hopeless. But then verse 17 says this, when he came to his senses. That's the turning point. Before his steps turned back home, his thoughts had to turn back home first. He remembered who he was, who his father was, and that he didn't have to stay stuck. That inner shift opened the door to restoration. Renewed thinking always precedes renewed living. So how do we change our thinking and ultimately change our lives? Philippians 4:8 gives us the next step. It says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. This verse isn't just poetic, it's a filter. It tells us what to allow into our minds. If a thought doesn't line up with what's true, noble, right, or pure, it doesn't belong. Choosing what to think about is how we set our minds on things above. So what about you? What's been running through your mind this week? Fear about the future, maybe comparison that steals your joy, or negative self-talk that keeps you stuck? Here's the truth. You don't have to believe every thought you think. Let me say that again. You don't have to believe every thought you think. God gives you the authority over your thought life, the ability to take every thought captive, renew it, and reset your focus. That's a daily choice, and it's a sacred one. So how do you do that in real life? What does that look like? When anxiety rises, just pause and say to yourself, remind yourself, I am blessed. If God is for me, who can be against me? When comparison starts to creep in, remind yourself, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Or when fear tries to take over your mind, declare this: God has not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. If you only get one thing from this, I want you to get this. You don't have to feel it for it to be true. Speaking truth in the middle of chaos is how you train your mind to agree with faith. So, my question for you is this: what were you thinking? What thought pattern has been leading your life lately? Does it align with God's truth, or has it been pulling you away from peace? And what would happen if, in that very moment, you stopped, refocused, and replaced that thought with truth, with God's truth? Sometimes the smallest mental shift becomes the start of the biggest transformation. So, friend, let's be honest. This isn't easy. Our minds don't just change overnight. It takes practice, patience, and grace. You're gonna mess up, and you will forget. But give yourself enough grace to try again, and again, and again. Every time you stop a negative thought and redirect your focus toward God, you're building a spiritual strength. Just like training a muscle, renewing your mind takes repetition, but it works. That's how peace grows. That's how faith deepens, and that's how transformation begins. So this week, when your thoughts try to spiral, I want you to just stop, refocus, and speak truth. You don't have to be ruled by your thoughts. Through Christ, you have the power to take them captive, to renew your mind, and fix your focus on what is good, true, and lasting. You are blessed, you are not forgotten, and you are free to think new thoughts today. Before you go, if this episode stirred something in you, don't let it stop here. Join the growing My Question For You community at myquestionforyou.com and get my free reflection guide. It follows along with each weekly episode and gives you more ways to dive in and grow closer to God. And you'll also get my weekly email called A Quiet Invitation, where you can take the conversation even deeper. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, I hope that you would please share it, tag it, or post it to your story, because every click and every share helps spread encouragement for the spirit and wisdom for the walk.